I'm Meredith Elliott Powell, and you are listening to A Shark's Perspective.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining A Shark's Perspective. I'm Kenneth Kinney, but friends call me Shark. I'm a keynote speaker, strategist, a shark diver, host of this show, and your chief shark officer. How do you turn uncertainty into being certain? Leaders are faced with this question every day, and all of us have been faced with it, especially when you think about COVID and the pandemic. But is there a way to make uncertainty work for you when your competitors are standing still? How would you thrive and turn that uncertainty into a competitive advantage? Meredith Elliott Powell is a business keynote speaker and strategist, an NSA Hall of Famer, vice chair of the National Speakers Association, a CSP, a master certified business growth strategist, a top 100 sales influencer by LinkedIn, and the author of Thrive, Strategies to Turn Uncertainty to Competitive Advantage. And on this episode, we'll discuss thriving in uncertainty, a good whiskey story around the time of Prohibition, embracing the suck, when to invest more in your business in uncertain times, becoming a modern-day selling machine, better sales messaging, solving their problem, and the soap that floats, showing them you care, sharks near Carolina shipwrecks, things to do in Asheville, socks and HIPAA rocking chairs in an airport versus one flight away from anywhere, why God gave us Cracker Barrel, and a lot more. So let's tune into Meredith Elliott Powell and Kenneth Shark Kinney on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. Meredith, welcome to A Shark's Perspective. Would you please tell us a little bit about your career and your backstory?
Yeah, so I am very excited to be here, ready to jump into this conversation. So, for the last, I guess I started into my own business in about 2009. I have kind of a varied career. I started out in travel and tourism, got into healthcare, and then got into financial services. I never really thought those industries had much in common until I figured out I got into every single one when they were going through massive disruption. So that's where I first got my passion for helping organizations and leaders turn disruption, uncertainty into success. Now I get to travel the world as a keynote speaker, an executive coach, and a business strategist.
And soon the president of the National Speakers Association. So congratulations on
That's
that. So
true, yes.
tell us about your newest book, Thrive, Strategies to Turn Uncertainty to Competitive Advantage. What led you to write it?
Yeah, a couple of years ago, long before we ever heard about COVID, back in 2018 and 19, I was doing what most people who work with B2B businesses do. I was asking people how business was. And back in 2018 and 19, if you can remember, the economy was red hot and everybody was answering the same. Business is good, business is fantastic. We're having our best year on record, but oh, this uncertainty. And I started to think, why does uncertainty always have to be a bad thing? And what would happen in your organization if you believed that disruption, even when it was challenging, was just the break you needed to take your organization to another level? And that curiosity put me on a mission to find businesses and leaders who had actually propelled their organizations and grown through some of our biggest challenges, such as economic depression, world wars, bigger things than we've ever faced as business owners. And I wanted to crack the code on the biggest challenge facing business today, and that was uncertainty. So I wrote the book, wrote the methodology.
Well, and you've also done some research with the Center for Generational Kinetics around uncertainty. And I'm curious, you've done this now a few years. What are you sort of seeing year over year? Are there any major differences with uncertainty other than the
Ah,
obvious with COVID?
yes, such a great question. One of the most interesting things that we found with the research when I wrote the book, I felt like I did the qualitative research. I spoke with the leaders, I got the stories, but I wanted to back it up with quantitative research. And I'll tell you, one of the most fascinating things is that when COVID hit, people were really stalled. They didn't know what to do, but there was a lot of energy in trying to adapt and trying to change and figure it out. Now, people are exhausted by uncertainty. And the biggest threat that uncertainty has is people are ignoring it because they're worn out from it. It's the last couple of years have been too much. Ironically, the uncertainty is getting greater. It's not pulling down.
Oh, sure. Well, question one here is, how did you personally thrive from a productivity and mindset standpoint during COVID and beyond as we get away from it?
Yeah, I probably did what everybody else did. I mean, as soon as
I curled up in the fetal position and cried like a baby. So
pretty much we all did. I mean, you sit in front of your computer and you watch as every ounce of revenue, every customer completely disappears. But I am lucky enough to have been raised by an incredible mother who's since passed. But my mother used to tell me when I was a kid, as young as 6, she would say to me, the fastest way to get past your own problems is to focus on somebody else's. And she said, if you're down and out about your own life, it's because you're too self-involved. And as you can tell, she was very compassionate and empathetic. So, so I just started there and I thought, well, gosh, I'll go back to this advice, these things I've heard from my mother since I was a little kid. And I decided just to put my problems and my fear on the back burner. And I started focusing on my customers. And from my customers, I found my path forward.
well, question 2 of that then is any tips and examples from the book that you like to share about how either you or the brands that you work with continue to thrive?
Yeah, so there's a couple of I've got some great favorite stories. In the second strategy, which is condition yourself for change, this idea that change can be your greatest opportunity if you see it coming, even if it's a challenging change. We studied Jim Beam, and who doesn't love a good a good whiskey? But I love this story because I think that prohibition is a bigger challenge than any of us have ever changed. When at any moment in time, the very government that you vote for could decide that what you do for a living, how you take care of your family, how you care for your employees could be illegal. And while all of his competitors ignored the fact that prohibition would become law, in fact, nobody believed it, not even Jim Beam. He decided to say, what would I do if it did become law? If the world changed in a way that wasn't working for me, what could I do now in order to be prepared? And he diversified his income stream. He invested in the citrus market. He bought land in Florida, invested in the mining industry. So when prohibition hit, every single competitor he had declared bankruptcy. He had enough income stream coming in that while everybody was cleaning up the past, he could focus on the future for when prohibition would be repealed. And long story short, they were back in business 120 days after the law was repealed without a close competitor on their heels, all because they didn't, we call that we use a military term around that strategy called embrace the suck. And because he embraced the suck, dealt with his reality, didn't ignore it, and embraced it, he was able to gain a clear competitive advantage.
Yeah, I knew this was one of your favorite stories. And if you and I sort of, we didn't talk about this before, but if you'd not talked about it, I would have wanted you to talk about Jim Beam. I love that story. But people often pull back in uncertain times. We often hear this about how they invest in X because they see a greater return in something than their competition during tough times, whatever that is, marketing, sales, whatever. But from a funding and commitment standpoint, what advice would you give to the reluctant C-suite, especially the CFO or the CEO who has to decide when to put their foot on the gas to do certain things during uncertain times to move their business forward and thrive?
Yeah, it's interesting that you would ask this question because in the keynote that I did this morning, I was asked that question. They said, what would be your biggest advice to a team full of executives? And I said, whatever activity you're doing, you need to double it. And what I mean by that is any interaction you're having with your customers, any interaction you're having with your members, you need to double it. You need to realize that people need you now more than they needed you before. And if you double that activity, you'll continue to grow your organization, which will take the fear out of investing in the company. The only reason we quit investing in the company is we're afraid to spend money. So if you're afraid to spend money, double your activity around finding more revenue. When uncertainty hits, it is not a time to pull back. It is a time to move forward, to go in for a couple of reasons. Again, your customers need you more than they've ever needed you. I think they need you more in uncertain times than they needed you in a good economic environment. The other is your competitors are pulling back. So your pathway to grow is clear. It's going to give you the revenue you need to continue to invest in the company. If you quit investing in the company, then you are writing the ticket to putting yourselves out of business.
Completely agree. I always remind people that just because you're uncertain doesn't mean that their problems go away.
Yeah.
They don't go together. So I think people forget that sometimes. So, I know you speak a lot about sales as well, sales leadership, but what do you think it takes to become a modern selling machine?
Yeah. I think what a great question. I think to become a modern selling machine, I think it takes a couple of things. Number one is I really believe you need to care about people. And the reason you need that is you need to realize you're not controlling the buying cycle. The customer is. I can sit here in my hotel room and buy anything I want to, anywhere I want to, anywhere in the world I want to. So the only reasons I'm buying from you is because one, I believe you have my best interest at heart. Two, I believe you can solve my problem. You understand what my problem is. And giving you my time is of value to me. So, as a modern salesperson, you need to realize the product and service is secondary. And you need to ask yourself, why should somebody give me their time? And why would they meet with me? And why would they buy from me? What else am I bringing to the table to do that? And you need to sell from a place of power rather than a place of need. I think where sales gets disruptive is that we're so worried about closing the deal. I don't think that's what sales is about. My job as a sales professional is to go out and talk to as many people as I can help, let them know what we can offer, how I can solve their problems, grow their business. If they buy from me, great. If they don't, that's okay too.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of it, though, the problem is a lot of the sales messages, and they continue to get worse and worse and worse despite whatever platform or medium we're on all the time. But what do you think can improve the quality of the sales communications during these uncertain times? Because it's one thing to be able to be bold enough to move forward and act, but be able to communicate it well as well.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that you need to do to improve the sales communication is you need to make sure that you're solving the right problem. And what I mean by that is that you need to understand the problem your customer is facing in this particular moment. And so often we're out there solving a problem that our customer doesn't have. It's not their urgent need. Can I give you a quick story?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, it's another story from the book, but it's the story of Procter and Gamble. And Procter and Gamble was started in the 1800s by two men, Mr. Procter and Mr. Gamble, who started the business. And the very first product they put on the market was soap. Now, I can't think of a product more difficult to differentiate yourself in the marketplace with than soap. But they understood that you never ever take a product to market that you don't talk to your target market first and ask them why they would buy the product. And what they learned is that people loved soap, people were willing to buy soap, but there was a problem with soap. And the problem was that it would sink to the bottom of the bathtub if you dropped it. And people told Procter and Gamble they wanted a soap that floats. Procter and Gamble shot air into a bar of soap, and Ivory soap was born. It was tagged the soap that floats. Their competitors were selling soaps that smelled good, soaps that came in different colors and different shapes, all nice features, but they solved the wrong problem. Nobody cared about that. People buy from you. The communication needs to be people buy from you because you understand them, not because they understand you.
That's a great story. So, whether it's a question of the messaging, leadership, or even staffing, how do you think sales leadership should prepare themselves for whatever the next big change is? Because to your point, it's always changing.
Yeah.
Something will come up. There'll be the next instance of COVID or something else, whatever it is. But nobody's going to really truly be able to plan for change. But what do you think they can do to prepare themselves for that next change?
Yeah. The best thing that they can do is some of your sales efforts need to be about listening to customers and not trying to sell anything. The most important part of that story from Procter and Gamble is they went out and talked to people. People told them how to sell the product. Procter and Gamble did not sell a product, did not sell a soap that didn't sink. They sold a soap that floats, exactly what their customers told them. So people will tell you exactly what they want, exactly how they want it, and in the exact language. Listen to your customers. Shark, I didn't come up with uncertainty because I thought it was a good topic. That's what everybody was saying to me. So I thought, okay, that's a problem that needs solved. If I can solve that problem, then I've got something of value.
Agreed. So how do you go yourself preparing for the next big change? Because 2020 was eye-opening to all of us. Where are you starting to plan for how you transition? God forbid something crazy happens again in the world.
Yeah, it's funny. Every time you do a keynote or you do a program, a couple of people come in early. Most people come in by the skin of their teeth before it starts. Most people come in early, but whether it's talking to a people in a keynote room, interviewing people before a presentation, talking to you right now, I am always listening for where I hear the themes and the common threads of what people are talking about and what people are interested in. I tell you, I'm so focused right now on something that is so far out of my comfort zone. I'm not sure I can do anything about the challenge, but I hear supply chain over and over and over again. And I think I got to wrap my head around supply chain. It's the biggest challenge facing people today. So I'm just always really listening and believing that my customers will guide me. I don't want people to buy me. I want people to buy the fact that I have something of value that will grow their business and grow their organization.
So I know you're 6 hours away from the beach, but I love to shipwreck dive, and the Carolina coast have a lot of shipwrecks from, the pirate days and from all the
Yeah.
days when they were bringing everything over. It's a great place to find a lot of the, especially sand tiger shark population. I ask this of all my guests: do you have a favorite kind of shark and why?
The only reason that I would say is a sand shark is my husband and I fished quite a bit. We've actually, while I don't make it to the North Carolina coast, we've got a place down in Charleston, South Carolina, because it's 4 hours from our house. And we've got this little great place on the beach, and we go down there at night and we'll just, throw the rods out there now and then and catch a little sandy and throw it back in. So nothing I like better than a little fight with a sand shark and then letting that sand shark go free.
Yeah, a lot of the sand tiger sharks that are in that area, they keep coming back to the shipwrecks, and the news always calls a sand tiger shark a tiger shark, and they're much smaller,
They're much smaller.
much smaller.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're that big.
they're not known for biting anybody, but they've got ugly looking teeth.
They do they do that, and they put up a nice little fight when you've got them on the rod, which makes kind of for a fun evening. There's nothing better than sitting down there before the sun sets late in the evening when everybody's left the beach, and you've got a little cocktail and you're just out there, and they'll always bite.
Well, Meredith, that's that special time of the show. Are you ready for the 5 most interesting and important questions that you're going to be asked today?
I am.
All right. Friends are coming to visit you in Asheville, North Carolina, where you live,
Mhm.
to enjoy the community and the culture. Are you taking them to the Biltmore or to the River Arts District?
Oh, definitely to the River Arts District. And the reason is because it's kind of funky. It's off the beaten path. And I figured they'd figure the Biltmore out on their own.
Well, I remember the first time I talked to you, we were talking about it. You were like, "Oh, there's so much more to Asheville," and
Yeah.
everybody always says that, but they know it because of the Biltmore. All right, so I won't ask you which is your favorite industry, but which one taught you the most about selling? Healthcare clients or financial service clients?
Oh, yeah. Healthcare all day long. And the reason was selling to doctors was intimidating to me. And then I'm old enough that you weren't allowed to selling healthcare still had a black mark on it. People said that it wasn't right to sell healthcare. And that was when I really learned that I worked for highly educated, successful doctors who were really high quality. And I wanted people to have a choice. And it taught me how to sell in a way that I didn't care if you didn't choose my doctor, but I wanted you to know the difference. So you had the information to make the right choice. Hands down, healthcare.
Yes, but Sarbanes-Oxley was much easier to communicate than HIPAA. So,
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
all right, number 3, bourbon or whiskey?
I'm more of a bourbon girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, number 4. You're in between, more or less, but which would you choose for the best experience, considering you're a busy speaker and out on the road a lot? Charlotte Douglas International Airport or Hartsfield Jackson Atlanta International Airport?
I'm a Delta girl, Atlanta all day long.
Agree. But those rocking chairs at Charlotte are kind of fun if you get some time.
Yeah, they are. Asheville's got the rocking chairs as well, but from Atlanta, I can get anywhere in the world in one flight, pretty much.
That's true. All right, number 5, and the most important question that you're going to be asked today is
Mhm.
biscuits or cornbread?
Oh my God, that's really hard. I'm going to say cornbread because I have a little sugar problem, and there's a little more sugar in cornbread than there is in a biscuit.
Fair.
So that was not only the most important, but that's the hardest because I would eat both.
Yeah, agreed. That's why God gave us Cracker Barrel. So
That's right.
in these uncertain times. So Meredith, where can people find out more about you, get a copy of the book, see a keynote, keep up with your thought leadership and more?
Yeah, so I am a big believer, build your network, change your life. If you reach out and connect with me, I will definitely connect with you. You can go to my website, valuespeaker.com, just the words valuespeaker.com. If you go there, you can get a free copy of the research report and a free chapter of the book. If you don't reach me on my website, I probably live on LinkedIn more than anywhere else. So reach out and connect with me there.
Meredith, thank you so much for being with us today on A Shark's Perspective.
Thank you, Shark. It was fantastic.
So there was my conversation with Meredith Elliott Powell, a business keynote speaker and strategist, an NSA Hall of Famer, vice chair of the National Speakers Association, a CSP, a master certified business growth strategist, a top 100 sales influencer by LinkedIn, and the author of Thrive, Strategies to Turn Uncertainty to Competitive Advantage. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from my conversation with her. First, in order to thrive, condition yourself for change. The Jim Beam whiskey story is a great one. He listened. Competitors ignored prohibition. He asked what would have happened if it did become law. He diversified in several other industries and had enough income to focus on the future. They were back in business in 120 days when others stayed shut down. As she said, they embraced the suck. No one has a crystal ball on what's next, but whatever it is, take advantage of that uncertainty when your competitors don't. Second, whenever times are tough, double down on your customers, your audience, your fans, etc. It takes the fear out of investing in the company when it's for them and about them. Double your activity around finding more revenue and don't pull back. Be prudent, but don't retreat. When your competitors pull back and they're not in the market, that doesn't mean you shouldn't also. Remember that even when times are tough, the problems of your customers do not go away just because you have pulled back. So move forward and find them. Third, my favorite part was the advice on becoming a modern-day selling machine. And she reiterated something I often talk about, and that is that you really need to care about people. She says that people buy because, 1, they believe you have their best interest at heart, 2, they believe you can solve their problem and understand what the problem is, and 3, because they believe giving you their time is of value to them. And that's so very true. You can improve the sales communication as well by showing them you care and helping them solve their problems, not yours. On stages, she and I both cite a favorite story about Ivory Soap. Mr. Procter and Mr. Gamble listened to their buying audience. And last but not least, Meredith said, and I'll quote, "People buy from you because you understand them, not because they understand you." Amen to that. So focus your messaging that way. Got a question? Send me an email to kenneth@asharksperspective.com. Thank you again for the privilege of your time, and I'm so thankful to everyone who listens. Please consider writing a review and letting me know your thoughts on the show. And one thing that is certain, I'll be back here soon with another great show. Be curious, be fearless, and dive deeper, my friends. And please join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.